Acknowledgement of country. Honour to the Wadjuk clan of the Noongar Nation who camped near this spot, on the shore of the Forgotten Lakes. Let what we say and hear today be a tribute to them, respect for their knowing. Acknowledge our unknowing and hope for acceptance in this land. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now, most of you know that we are here today for Recoil 10. More about that later. But now, Recoil 4. Okay. So, I thought I'd start with a poem that I had published in Recoil 4 called Iraqi Girl. I am 8 years old. My name rhymes with walrus. I have a cute tooth-missing smile. Sure, I may be the shortest girl in the class, but I'm queen of the junior school playground. I'm Muslim, but even I know about Santa. So I got excited when they said we would be catching a boat to Christmas Island. Alhamdulillah, I survived the journey that friends and family did not. Now, here I am in Australia. Miss Della tells me to speak clearly. She tells me to use my inside voice. She tells me to straighten my collar. It doesn't matter. I love it here. My teacher says I must try very hard in school. In the future, in job interviews, in shopping centres. I'll be judged on my spelling. I'll be judged on my accent. I'll be judged on my religion. Mum says we'll go back one day, but I'll still call Australia home because life here is sweet, like chocolate. Thank you. Okay, so I wrote that 6 years ago. All right, so we are here to celebrate Recoil 10 and the efforts of the amazing Cole Carter. Claps for Cole! So much love in the room for you here today, Coral. Okay, thank you for bringing us together on this occasion to celebrate the amazing poets that are published in this book. Now, just a little bit of background information on it. So, this volume represents a snapshot of the poets and the poetry at Perth Poetry Club over its first 10 years, starting on the 28th of March 2009. In that time, we have had 480 Saturday gigs, 850 plus features, 7,500 plus open micers, and 17,500 plus audience members. Wow. So, all the poets that were published in the previous Recoils are represented in this book. So we are talking about 125 poets, people. Amazing. I think claps for that alone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Christine Della Vedova, and I'm very proud to be your MC here today. And I will be announcing the first open micer, Baby Talk. Baby Talk to the stage.
I'm going to read two today. One's happy and one's sad. I'll read the sad one first. It's sung lyrics to a song by a Swedish band called Meshuggah. And Meshuggah means crazy or senseless in Yiddish. The song's called Bleed. Beams of fire sweep through my head. Thrusts of pain increasingly engaged. Sensory receptors succumb. I am no one now. Agony. My crimson liquid so frantically spilled. The ruby fluid of life unleashed. Ripples ascend to the surface of my eyes, their red pens drawing at random at will. A myriad pains begotten in their wake, the bastard spawn of a mutinous self. The regurgitation of my micro-nemesis salivating red at the prospect of my ruin, my doom. Malfunctioned the means for its ascent, bloodletting the stringent voice to beckon my soul, so futile any resisting tension. As death-induced mechanics propel its growth, the implement, the device of my extinction, the terminating clockwork of my gleeful bane, my definitive scourge of its mockery, the end art instrument's lethality attained. Heed, it commands, heed my will, bleed, it says, bleed you will. Falling into the clarity of undoing, scornful gods haggle for my soul. Mind's eye flickers and delegates as I let go. Taunting whispers accompany my deletion. A sneering grin, the voice of my reaper, chanting softly the song of my depletion. And this, yeah. This is an excerpt from an essay by J.R.R. Tolkien. He wrote The Lord of the Rings. You might have heard of it. The essay is called On Fairy Stories, and this is just an excerpt. I was watching the movie last night and I looked at his quotes. It's really cool. The mind that thought of light, heavy, grey, yellow, still, swift, also conceived of magic that would make heavy things light and able to fly, turn grey lead into yellow gold and the still rock into a swift water. When we can take green from grass, blue from heaven, and red from blood, we have already an enchanter's power. Thank you.
Well done, Baby Talk. And coming under the 3 minutes that our open micers have. Oh, Baby Talk, amazing. Okay, so now we're going to hear from the first bunch of our Recoil 10 poets today. So I'm going to announce the 3 poets that will be coming on the stage in one block. So we're going to have first Colin Young, followed by Sarah Morgillo, and then Emerson. So let's welcome Colin to the stage.
Thanks. This is called The Island. First, the sun dances lopsided one day through fig trees and palms unfolding their fingers. You ignore it and turn to the molten chess set where ants spill between arguments of pieces. A knock on your hut is only tropical wind. A heartbeat later, fungus erupts on your face. With a sigh, you bolster your chin with muscles and whittle at a warped end of driftwood to mimic conversation with action. Is it your complexion vanishing? A nearby macaw trumpets before ruffling its wings into inhuman silence. Now your eye socket registers a loss of vision as a dark whirlpool hungers in front of you. Your eyelids are flowers shutting up to sleep till the skin is smooth. In the afternoon, your nostrils shrink before salt, tang, and starfish. Nose flattens into your dial, but you're past caring. Near where you pumped your arms in ecstatic surf, now putrefaction is restive in the sand for leftover scraps. Too late to stop fatigue enveloping your bones, as you lie statuesque and empty as a reed. With bright indignity you are dazzled, and your mouth is sealed forever. At such a moment, while your face echoes a blue and featureless sky, the ocean begins to smell its prey, and waves gather their claws on land. I have no idea what that means. No, just joking. This poem is called It's a favourite of mine. Night envelops day. Envenoms day. Envenoms. Night envenoms day, as after sunset moths flock to the moon and ghosts invade a derelict house. Acacia, bottlebrush and orchid contend in enterprise with paper wasps to muster on the wooden threshold. Overhead, the Milky Way bruises darkness with a brilliance unmatched in a smelter furnace. Thanks very much.
Thank you. I'm reading for Andrea Lindell, who can't be here, and she was also published in Recoil. This is called Silence. Silence hangs limp and fine like pale tan stockings over the chair in the corner of the bedroom, carrying a weight of history in featherlight threads that catch the early morning sun. I can see the runs and ladders from where we scratched and picked the seams to unravel all that's passed between our knowing, the love without words, the longing without end. We have spoken the language and can comprehend the sound of silence, wrapped up in stockings, running, always running, fragile. Thank you. Oh, don't worry. Thank you. And this is my poem. Oh, thanks. Mercury. Can you recognise stars that started as dust? Do you know about Venus and Mars, and have you spoken to the moon much? Mercury. You've heard liquid gold pour out still hearts, sung to the sky and landed there. Mercury. Do you know kids still play your song on New Year's? Making out tastes better to your lyrics, and driving to the middle of nowhere is just another opportunity to learn them. Spin all your purposes between dancing wrists and fingers, Mercury. I hope the stars look good. I hope they feel light and warm around you. I hope you've been sleeping well. I hope the moon's been keeping you company. Venus and Mars too.
Keep the claps going as Emerson makes his way from the back. Here comes Emerson.
That was the longest applause
Woo!
This one's called Depression's Bathroom. Can we have a little bit turn up just a bit? Is that okay? Yeah? Cool. There's an empty plastic bag packed to the brim with cardboard binoculars. Shit, that reminds me. I forgot to take the recycling bin out for the third time this week in a row. An empty toothpaste tube lays crusty, dry, still, somehow less squeezed than my emotions and feelings and thoughts. And on the sink sits a soap block the size of a Tic Tac, some old jock socks and locks of hair, a combination of pubes and facial hastily trimmed for a date which never happened. My ivory throne gleams pearlescent pride, cleaner than my blood-stained toothbrush. On the shelf sits blunt, dull and rusty shaving blades, one towel, face cloth and shower mat, the Godhead. Grimy, slimy, mouldy, shower curtain, plastered leopard paw prints, glued upon musky walls. I've got no shampoo or conditioner, though there's an Aldi bag, chockers with calming candy-coated chemicals to keep me from naked street rants at 6 a.m. on Sunday mornings, screaming about animals and how they need to evolve, but before they can do that, we need to stop eating them, and how humanity needs to fuck off for a few million years, and how in 7 times 7 times 7 years the others will descend from the stars. Ding dong. And if we haven't achieved inclusion and diversity on this planet, we'll probably try to eat them too. Imagine bird people coming from the sky. I'm sure KFC wants a slice of that pie. And eyes go white, speaking in tongues, delusional romance, telekinetic powers, shadow people molesting me in my sleep. I haven't slept for 6 days now. I think I might take a nap. Wait, why are there 5 men in lab coats holding me down, shoveling pills in my mouth, and where are my clothes? Oh yeah, must have left them in the bathroom. Thanks. I got one more one. One more one? What does that even mean? One more one. Sorry guys, just one more one. Oh, come on, don't do this to me now. Seriously guys, I won't. Okay. I feel so lost in this world, like I don't know what else to do. Am I a prison or a temple? To whom do I owe my grace? Pleading and suffering, wrestling my flesh against walls that hold me in place, stuck with anguish, dust without air, pain is nothing to be won with you. Thanks.
Ah, the diversity. Do we have SPM in the room? SPM to the stage. That's it. Here he comes.
That's more like it. Thank you to Coral, Elio, Perth Poetry Club for all that you do. But more importantly, thank you, Coral, for being such a style icon. Your fashion is an inspiration to me, and I admire you so much. Divine. At the end of the road is country. In the song of the pastoral, we inhabit edging, astral and incomplete. Ebbing into the grain, scythe's cut is neat. How the rain can fill a river to run through this. How fire breaks against a summer hiss. Combine harvest into hay. Speak of being back in the day. Eulogy for what we say, and the cycle folds in on itself and starts again. All our fences have holes in them so we can see a world beyond. Let birdsong through, a telegraphy of bush fills view. Outside of this, food miles and politics set our roads askew, while the neighbours headlamp night and shoot another bloody rue. We build rust into love just to cut it out. How gears goad as we erode machine parts that grind our hearts. Tell our kids that when they leave for the city, to send rain instead of letters or notes. It's a shame they can't continue this continuity, and so we work because work works. And so we work because work works. And so we work because work works. And so we work. There is joy in repetition. How a callus builds on itself. Beer brewing a day undoing. And when the kids finally do call, we know thunder squalls, much needed rainfall. Sepulchral, phone fills with voice, rapport, and petrichor. Those kids, they only ever return home for birth, for burial. Thank you.
Astounding stuff. Okay, now we're going to have the next bunch of Recoil 10 poets. So I shall announce it now. We're going to have Gary Di Piazzi, followed by the work of the Irish poet Tony Curtis, read by the Irish Samantha Melia, then Coral, and then our launch speech by Ben. So Gary, come to the stage. He's at the back, so we're going to have to clap him for a while, people.
God, that's a long way. Okay. Nights when falling is natural. I couldn't remember what poem I submitted, so I had to wait for the book. Okay, nights when falling is natural. Deja vu reflections that point to some past, soiled in the throes of insanity, shuffled across a dreamscape. What was a clown of voices is an open excuse for manic. That vain laugh to a plea for help in the mimic of autumn leaves. And wallowing comes close to normal as day and night fade and curtains fall in this theatre choreographed to a score where the staccato breath is the only tune and the heart fills the percussion. Some nights it is everything missing that opens the need to collect remnants, hold the thread of you, bind it to something solid, like your laugh, your smile. Some nights breathe is all I can do as sunrise steps on the edge of sleep. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to speak loud because I'm down the back and I know how hard it is to hear. It's an honour to read this poem, being a fellow Dubliner. Tony Curtis wrote this after a trip to the Central Mental Hospital in Dublin. It's called In the Wilderness. I met Moses in the asylum in a yellow room that smelt of sorrow. He'd given up the sweeping robes and carrying a wooden staff. He was wearing denims and a t-shirt that said, "Follow me on Twitter." In his small way, he was still leading lost souls out of the wilderness. When he stood up, he was smaller than I had imagined. Together, we read a poem about Connemara ponies. Blessed creatures, he said they were. He had the deepest brown eyes, but it is his voice I will remember. It was 10,000 miles of dusty roads. It was a parched riverbed, a dried out well, more broken twigs than biblical thunder. When I was leaving, he handed me a scrap of paper with 2 lines written out in pencil. I have a friend I value here, and that's a quiet mind. It was his map out of the wilderness. Yeah, it's beautiful. This is a poem I wrote in Scott Patrick's workshop during the festival, which was really amazing. It was a workshop on grief. He asked us to write about something we could say to people that was good about grief, and I came up with this. It's called The Same Road. Misery will set you free. Having laid flat, faced down on the floor, the only way to rise and rise up to the highest level of connectedness. Only the truly broken can mend others. Only the deathly scarred up can see absolute beauty. My simple salvation is the pain. Shallow can't have depth. Only depth can have depth. Untouched can't touch. If it's going to happen, it has to be messy. I can stand in a crowded room and instantly tell who is in pain, for I am in pain. I was in pain, so now only I truly love. Because of utter hopelessness, I found the road to hope. They were the same road. Thanks.
Swinging back into open mic, we have Anna Kisoji. Anna! Lots of claps until she gets to the stage, people. You know the drill.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here from Melbourne, and all of you probably already know this, but Perth shit's all over Melbourne. Okay. This is called Reflections on Art. Georgia O'Keeffe died the year my mother upped sticks with me under her arm and took a seat in a smoke-grey Trabant, headed for the border, headed into life, headed west. We had not the charcoal-smooth vegetation of a desert landscape, but the crowded aspect of Austrian villages. Insistent blue sky, pastel houses, exploding colours of geraniums. Any blue or green music we encountered that year of living invisibly was forged on TDK and Kodak cassettes, the vibrating novelty of rock and roll. Lyrics tangled in foreign tongue, rhythms faster than heartbeats, louder than screaming. The rocks and bones I collected were chestnuts I'd keep until rot set in, and in feathers of blue and green they would spread their mould in the room. Life tracked with longing, distance and proximity, a dance with red tape. Our far away was less romantic, driven by something more mechanical than time, less human than hope. We waited, helpless. Lined up at consulates, counted rejections, we waited, helpless. And now, I face the canvas, city prosperous, words like freedom ring almost comical to ears that have known fearful silence, disappearing, loss. The year Georgia O'Keeffe died, the world lost a great artist. The world expanded with waves of moving people, seeking their own far away, heading west, waiting, hopeful. Thank you.
Okay, it's a short walk for Tim because he's right here. Let's clap, Tim. Looking forward to it, Tim.
When I wrote this poem, I'd just come out of yet another psych ward, but now I look at it, it's pretty linear. There's not enough poetic devices, that sort of thing, but it's okay. Cigarettes are the currency of the psych ward. They cement conversations, camaraderie and empathy together. Cigarettes punctuate poignant moments of self-revelation and reflection. Cigarettes unite patients like their common interest in mental suffering, diagnosis and medication. Now there are vapors communing as well, feeling superior because they are less likely to die of lung cancer or emphysema. I made it through Armidale Hospital without smoking, but when I moved on to Perth Clinic I couldn't help myself. I wanted to hang with the cool kids. I wanted to share cigarettes with my brothers and sisters, like the anorexic woman who had done severe damage to her body and brain with excessive exercise and starvation. Her parents were going to disown her if she didn't go to some bullshit pseudoscience treatment. Or the woman so traumatized by sexual assault that she wore gloves to avoid human touch. Or the Colombian woman with schizoaffective disorder whose parents refused to let her have friends. Or the brilliant guy with schizophrenia who could code in 5 different programming languages and was 1 semester away from a law degree. Seeing that people had it worse than me gave me perspective and shredded self-pity. Some of the kindest and most gentle people you will ever meet are chain smoking in psychiatric wards. So, I started chain smoking White Ox. Not wise, but kind of understandable. Like meeting up with a loyal but dodgy companion who often gets me into trouble. So familiar and relentless from 20 years of smoking. I have given up twice with hypnosis and started again twice. It's a worry. Thank you.
So I'm going to do my best to fit everybody in. A few people came and saw me and I said, maybe not, but maybe yes. And everybody that's an open mic would really help me out if they kept preamble to a minimum, please. Okay, so Peter Jeffrey to the stage. Peter Jeffrey.
Right, 110. This poem is about that Australian universal, which is roadkill, and it takes a bit of pleasure for me to say that Coral Carter has actually written a roadkill poem that is as good as this, and so has also Alan Paget. It's a genre of its own, a very special genre. Shadow Eater. To the intermittent windsuck of the endlessly passing cars, the trucks, the buses, the bikes, the utes, the caravans, the trailers, with their on-off sonic blasts and soft hum, the crows turn their bulky backs from the road as they cluster around the roadkills. And they are seemingly in disregard. Or is it for the instant flight away into the bush, or to rise in the sky, to dominate in an overview of road, bush, roadkill, and the other avian rivals? Now in the quiet times, they are a burly scrum, and they neatly trim the carcass of its skin, its organs, down to its bones. And then they rise and they peel away so gracefully into endless levels and loops of air, so that you cannot remember their bulk, their seeming stodginess, but you revel in the power of their strong wind beaks that sees them half-graced between gull and hawk. But I am haunted by one solitary, all of its fellows gone, who seems to have only the roadkill's remaining bloodstain that is congealed in the scattered sand on the bitumen, and it traces its shadowy profile with its probing beak, as if it is ingesting its remnants into shadow and fading memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Now let's welcome Alan Paget to the stage, and Alan's going to announce something special. So Alan plus something special. Alan.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Coral. It's all been said. Thank you. Robert Wood is in Characteristics 10. He couldn't turn up today. He's one of us. This is called Visiting Elvis. A voice box is a soapbox is a big box store. He thrifted and drifted and grifted galore. Galosh ate borscht in a three-piece suit off the highway. What's more, paid respect to a land of grace, bracing for the gold. Records of his father's garage on a distant shore. They drove miles to puppets, to turtles, to tears in the fence and vampire necks, to little clams, to heaven's spent remembrance of kings in deserts, with neon and poker machines. You're forward. They slapped their thigh in a pair of blue Hawaiian shorts. Coconut burst. So thanks, Robert, for having me read. I am deeply privileged to read two poems from dear, beautiful Perth poets who have since left us, and then to introduce a beautiful person who represents a family for the third poet, whom we've unfortunately lost. So thanks, Alio and Christine, for asking me to read these. The first is by Carolyn Sambridge from Recall 10, and I could go on and talk about the fun that Caroline generated. I went to her farewell. It was a magic, magic, magic time. This is called The Awful Truth. The Tooth Fairy is heaven sent. She doesn't leave the kids a cent. The The tooth fairy weaves her magic spell and leaves her victims rather unwell. She leaves her victims toothless and gummy and leaves them with a rubber dummy. The parents think that she's a bitch, but she don't care. She's filthy rich. The tooth fairy drives a Mercedes-Benz and politicians are her favourite friends. She uses the teeth to build towers in the sky. The towers are over 3 miles high. She flits around from state to state and has gotten into real estate. She doesn't care about the kids, and lately she has hit the skids. She's been on the old bottles of Jacks. Maybe she should get the sack. And this is for Meryl Manoy, who lasted a lot longer than dear Caroline, who died far too soon. And Meryl's poem was in Recall 7. And these haiku, 5 haiku, were published in Creatrix. So there are 5. Storm clouds eclipse the sun, daisies fold. Heat wave, she stirs another jelly, set in her ways. Azalea blossoms, open to bees, a visitor knocks on my door. Morning embrace, sun-kissed daisies unfold. Vapour trails over my steaming cup of tea. Thank you, Mel. And here I feel deeply, deeply privileged. Roughly where Colin's sitting, around about there, there used to be a table which until about 2 years ago was called the Table of Elders. And that implies wisdom, and yes, I was at it. But leave me out of the wise bit. Speaking of wise, there's a bloke over there, Ron. The average age of that Table of Elders is 310, and Ron did a magnificent effort at raising the mean. Whereas me and Fran, we kept it reasonably low, being, I don't know about Fran, but I'm 71. I'm jealous of your health at 93 too. Whatever you are, Ron, thanks, mate. And the point of this story is that at that table was a very, very, very special, beautiful woman, Dorothy Wiley. And there are lots of nods because people know. Think of her, remember her. I was lucky to be at Dorothy's farewell last year, and that was another very beautiful, if sad occasion. But here today, we are so lucky because up there, in the sort of baseball cap turned as Australians should have this that way, is Lindsay Wiley, Dorothy's son, one of. And over there on the wall is Jane. And Jane is lucky to be married to Lindsay and therefore to be related to Dot. And in the middle is another lovely person called Megan. And Megan, I'm not sure about what I'm about to say, is lucky to be married to Lindsay's twin brother. And Megan's daughter Shannon is sitting this side. Welcome, Shannon. Shannon read a beautiful eulogy at her grandma's farewell. And the beautiful little kid sitting there is Lenny. Welcome, Lenny. So there are 5 deeply beautiful, close members of Dorothy's family here. And this is where I hand over to the remarkable Shannon, whom I have heard read once at her granny's farewell. And she's going to read from Recall 10, one of the many, many amazing, beautiful poems which Dorothy wrote and read. And as we all know, Dorothy was often extremely funny. She was always very cheeky. And, you know, all of us, that table of old peoples, table of elders, fell to pieces after that. And, sometimes I sit near Ron, that's as close as I get. But I remember it well, and we probably all do. But we certainly will never forget Dorothy Wiley. Shannon.
I'd just like to say thank you, Coral, for putting my grandma's words in this beautiful book, and I can't wait to read the rest of it. This one's called Prayer Before an Op. I was in hospital once for an operation, and blimey, it was a queer sensation. They stuck a needle in my arm, and I went to sleep without a qualm. When I woke up, I felt all funny, and I could feel prickles on my tummy. So I peeked beneath my jama top, and I was sewn with something a cat has got. The doctor was taking my stitches out and said I gave an awful shout. Sat up on the table, gave him a glare, and told him that he wouldn't dare. But he went snip, snip, cut them away, and I've got the scars to show today. I must admit now I'm feeling fine, that I'd wondered if he'd stop in time. Had his scissors slipped, I dread to think how much my dignity would shrink. But thank you, God, my womanhood is intact, or that doctor I'd see, and that's a fact. So always pray when on the table you go, as you can't see what they do, you know. Or you could wake up missing a wrong part, and instead of your appendix, they've taken your heart.
Back into open mic, and we've got Craig Airy to the stage. Craig Airy. Thank you, audience members.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Lorraine is living in Bali, and she asked me if I could read her. So, okay, don't worry about it. Okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties, people. I do apologise. Hang on, I need to find page 88. Here we are. While we Westerners linger in the sun and the sea, the Balinese boys bring loungers, umbrellas and bintang, while others ply their trade, selling anything from fruit to leather wristbands to safeguard their families. I watch in fascination as a woman with such grace peels, decors, pits and presents a pineapple flower for us to devour. Such artistry gone in minutes. Then I notice a tall ship go by. Oh, a kite. I long to fly one. There comes next an angel face with such intelligent eyes who walks the beach to send her kids to college. She sells jewellery and sits and teaches me about their goddesses. This is their life on Bali beaches, while we Westerners linger in the sun and try to remember the Indonesian word for shopping. Thank you.
Very well read, Craig. Thank you. Now, Jackson, founder of Perth Poetry Club. Jackson!
Have I grown? Maybe I have. All right. Isn't this awesome? Yeah. Suck on this, anthologists of the establishment. Well done, Coral and everybody. Okay, I'll read my poem. Was in it, Trace. This dropped as a bird fluttered free from a claw. This black wave, soft signs gathered and stitched along a wand. This is not an artifact, Between its closed hooked ranks, its floor, a slit, diffracts the light. I long to give the smooth folds of this to my fingers, take its intricate truth, but if I caress, my adamant digits will unrender this, unpick, unzip, split, crush, scramble its whispered is. On the turned face of my fist, with the breathy tip of this, I tickle the trace of a wish. If I'd thought about it, I would have brought a black feather along to hold up while reading that. Okay, and from my book, also published by Mala Press, The Emptied Bridge, I'll read the title poem, which is relatively short. Chris will be pleased to hear. This year, I won't stand under the railway bridge when the trains are going across, she said, even though it thrills me so, the adrenaline secret of the huge metal body roaring above me. This year I won't, she said, because every time I do it, the thrill is a little smaller, the thrumming struts and howling iron breath more familiar. This year I will hang back, I will wait, I will let the train rumble on without my small gasp and shiver below it. It makes no difference to the train, she said, so this year I will simply watch, then pass beneath the emptied bridge and go.
Twice as many claps for Jackson for founding Perth Poetry Club in the first place. Thank you, Jackson. Okay, now we have entered spillover, which means no preamble and 2 minutes. So Daniel Quilt to the stage from the back. Daniel Quilt.
Thanks, Christine. And thanks to Cole for putting together Recall 10 and including me. And thanks to Elio and everyone else that puts this together every week. So I've just got a little bit shorty, the last bit of script I got down. This is called Playing. Up and out of the chicken scratch gravel, the blood on the feathers and the dreams dashed across the rocks. Up and out of the bone-shifted dirt, a rush of light across the soul and the dream-torn blanket. Cheers.
The man with many names. Okay, Gail Willems to the stage. Where is Gail? She's kind of midway, so not so much clapping this time.
Hi everybody. Recall 5 and Recall 10, same poem. Reality has too many heads and cold eyes. No space exists without it. I count 1,000. Sometimes I lose them. Stones and bones fill the space to my right. Time leaks to the left. We swim in mirrors. I walk in your house, cut in half with a distant voice. Day peels off my bones. You sit on my tongue. I slip your face. In my night I see you walking through my brain. I have half a photo. I bend into a pocket. In 1,000 faces, I bury your name. Thank you.
Okay, amazing, Gail. Okay, we're going to have Draz, and then we're going to have Ron Oakley. So, yes, get your poem ready, Ron. Draz.
Thank you. From a star called Atlantis. Well, it was just the other night I was sharing afternoon tea with a dear friend named Passion. I heard her call from deep inside my seashell, feeding me it was time to fall down the distant wishing well. Now on the downside I found myself underneath an ocean full of mosaic butterfly lamps, and the seabeds holding all the cosmos. So here I stand looking into the abundant anything, and it's true, I'll have you know, through your mind and imagination anything goes. Pride dressed in sapphire shows off down lapis lazuli hallways, passing 1,000 open windows, facing towards cerulean forerunners looking out to azure legends and turquoise champions. Are they from a star way up that way called Atlantis? Or just a long, long time ago? Maybe even a kingdom named Neptune. And they're straight up ahead, you can see all the grandfather clocks melt into the sea. They simply just weren't meant to be. So if that's the case, allow me to unpack all of yesterday's lives into this strange, strange dream. However, if that's the case, then maybe I'll decide to leave after a short while, for forever is such a major place. Now wouldn't it be bizarre if the sky sank along with the aquamarine atmosphere, leaving nothing other than a ceiling of cyan stars perfectly arranged, suspended in an endless time of indigo's limitlessness. Your mind kept in a quasi-room where the walls have become an elusive mirage, and just as you're thinking to yourself that you're standing pretty tall, you look down at your feet to realize they're planted on nothing particular at all. Just an ever-changing crystalline druzy of formless teal verdigris that reaches for whatever lay beyond infinity. Did I mention the furniture is hanging way, way up, from upper side down? So if forever is such a major place, then I think, I hope I think, I'll walk to Atlantis, a star that hangs way up that away. I just hope the wind doesn't run away with my face.
Thank you, Draz. Okay, we're going to have Karen Gila-Reiter, and we're going to have Maitland Schnarr after. So Karen, here comes Karen. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back. This is called Tkufat Tevet, which is approximately from the Hebrew for winter solstice time. It's based on a story from the Jewish oral tradition, the Babylonian Talmud, Avodah Zarah. In the first winter, Eve and Adam felt the world getting colder and colder. Leaves fell from trees. Animals disappeared underground. Rivers froze. They saw the days gradually diminishing. Each evening, the darkness encroaching earlier and earlier. Darkness that lingered later and later each morn. Each noon, the sun sitting lower and lower in the sky. They said, "Woe is us! A frozen darkness is engulfing this world into which we were born. We are returning into the primordial nothingness from which we came. Is this the end that has been decreed for us?" So for 8 days they sat in fast and in prayer. Sustenance did not touch their lips, but their cries reached the heavens. For on the 9th day, the winter solstice arrived. Eve and Adam saw the days gradually lengthening, the light lingering, flower buds blooming, the frost melting. They proceeded to observe 8 days of festivity, for they learnt that this is how the earth is reborn.
I'm not going to do mine and Alan's poem in Recall 10 because it's too long, but I will do another one of ours. Brand spanking new one. I only did it once last week. So I could do Alan's voice as well as mine. Sitting, listening, breathing. Emptiness like a wilted flower sits, mist envelops, caressing body with fingers of despair as light as the touch of a lover's hand. Yet sometimes the full weight of word hits like a brick. You swallow the brunt of meaning, sink and wear it like a new face, suck in air like oceans, waiting, drifting, swaying. Sitting, listening, breathing. Cold cup of coffee stands getting colder, feeling lonely and forgotten. Books in ragged lines, titles talking to each other, to you. Each spine reads like another minor scale, your arms like carry trees, but from outside the window is a mirror, a bookcase list of old names written in code, floating, drinking, sailing. Sitting, listening, breathing. Words float, swirl and glide in and out, in and out, in and out. Heart beating, blood flowing, in and out, in and out, in and out. If the breath stalls mid-sentence, the heart needs choke. Talk gets expensive now. Streets race past in the bird streaks. There are no buses in this place, no signal hardware giants, logos the size of mountains, just edges of she oaks speaking, singing, standing, weeping, sitting, listening, breathing, lips part, a breath, a sigh. Wooden legs scrape across wooden floors, empty, hollow sound. Our red hands fold into each other, tales of teenage riots, console stories and telephone boxes looking for coins, fire pits, cheap piss and cigarette burning, sinking, smiling, walking, dancing, running, falling, drifting, breaking, gone. Thank you.
Great poem to finish the gig. So next week we have Hessam Razavi, Sonia Frassini. Thank you to the 125 people in the audience today, and pizza's on its way. Stay if you can. Thank you very much.